there's going to be a lot of talk, I believe, and there already has been, about NRS 288 amongst people who are seeking the legislature. It's a critical piece of the Nevada revised statute. So before we get into the talk about Open Government Initiative, let's talk about what is NRS 288.
Well, that initiative was passed, I believe, that statute was passed, I believe, in the late 70s, and it basically exempts from the open meeting laws government negotiations with contracts with the unions or the collective bargaining agreement. The key issue here is with our budget deficits just skyrocketing. I mean, we're going to have 40% of our state budget we're not going to be able to fund under the current revenues. People are worried about government expenditures more now than ever. That being said, then why are we exempting 70 to 80% of these expenditures away from the public view? 40% in the state level when you're talking about the education funding. The initiative that we're trying to get passed will only require that these negotiations, we're talking about what leads up to the final product, the negotiations, the studies that are being done that say, well, this state gets so much money, why should Nevada get this amount? That the public gets a chance to review all these things before it's voted on.
All right, let's just walk through the process, and you can help me if I misstate this. The negotiations go on. At some point they do get approved, or an impasse is reached. When an impasse is reached, the statute specifies a finder of fact should evaluate what has gone on, and then if they can't come to terms, there's an arbitration. Where's the flaw in that process?
Well, you can still have that process as long as it's open to the public and the public can see what's going on. When they reach the impasse, let's put it this way. Let's say that the public employees are being underpaid, and you can show statistics and evidence and put forth some really good reasons why these public employees are being underpaid in this department. If you have this and it's open to the public and the public gets to see these things, then they can go back and lobby, for lack of a better word, or at least email and call their city councilman and say, listen, we've been following this process. We think you should vote this way. You're our representatives, and this is the way we feel you should be voting, and this is the will of the people. That works in making the product better. Now, the opposite can happen too if there is a situation where certain public employees are getting overpaid. For example, there was a nice article in the paper, I think it was a Review Journal this past week, where it talked about how many of the firemen are getting paid higher salaries because they have the training to perform medical work, although they don't do that for their job. And that would raise an issue. Well, if the public knew this was being negotiated and being imposed into the contracts, then they could have called and contacted the elected representatives and argued against it.
What are some of the things that the public doesn't know? Are you aware of current negotiations or past negotiations where things have gone on that should have been called to public attention and weren't?
Well, under the statute, it's not supposed to be called to the public attention. It's supposed to all be done behind closed doors.
No, but you're saying the public would be interested in knowing certain things. Well, give us more examples is what I guess.
Well, I think we'll let the public decide. Would you be interested in knowing how these contracts that are making up 70% to 80% of your local budget and 40% of your state budget, how these contracts are coming to fruition? How are they being negotiated? What are they being based upon? You get a chance to see all the empirical data that's being produced, the studies and reports that are being produced. You can hear the arguments on both sides of why they believe they should get one part of the contract, while the other side is saying no, it should be another part. The public just has an opportunity to learn what's going on. There will be the vast majority of the public probably won't care, but there's going to be the active ones that really care about it, that want to hear and have a chance to see what's going on. That's why we have open meeting laws. That's why people can go in to the zoning issues and land works issues and hear what's going on and argue against it because it affects their neighborhoods. Well, these contracts affect your tax dollars and how they're being spent.
Now, why did you happen to get involved in this?
Unfortunately, I lost my race in the U.S. Senate primary, and I had 5 extra months available to me that I wasn't counting on being open. And I met with Governor Gibbons after the primary, and I said, if there's something that you feel like could be a benefit for, please let me know. I'd be happy to help out. And I got contacted by Governor Gibbons' staff and asked if I would be interested in this. And to me, this is an easy one. I mean, it really is very little arguments against this initiative. It's transparency. It's what every person running for office talks about until they get in office and then they don't produce it. So to me, it was an easy one to get fully behind. The problem with this initiative, quite frankly, is we have the most visible and exciting U.S. Senate race in the whole country here. We have a governor's race that's going to have huge ramifications to our state. People are so into these other races, it's hard to get them excited about this initiative, even though it's very important. And that's the obstacles we're facing right now.
How close are you to meeting the number of required signatures?
Well, there's a number of different groups that are collecting signatures. The group that we have in Clark County is doing very well. We have collected a signature. We haven't had anybody say they didn't want to sign it once we explained what it was. The problem, again, is getting the manpower, the people out there to collect the signatures. There isn't money to pay people to go out and get the signatures, which a lot of times has happened with these initiatives. Most of the monies are going into these political races I just mentioned. So we're trying to do this with volunteers. And as with the money, most of these volunteers want to work on the more exciting Senate race or governor's race. So we're doing the best we can with the resources we have. And so far, we've collected quite a few. We have up until, I believe it's November 8th or 9th. So we have through election day, and I believe we'll get more signatures as it gets closer towards the election period.